Hi, this video is all about how I help students foster their employability skills. Now, employability skills, aka soft skills or transferable skills, will help someone no matter what job they have. They include ability to work well with others, ability to problem solve, manage time, and actively listen, just to name a few. In fact, I tell my students that these skills will help them in life, no matter their path. They will help them with school, jobs, and even personal relationships. Once I explain this and have the initial buy-in as to why they should care about fostering their skills, I have them complete the Employability Skills Growth Assessment. This is a free download, and I will link it in the description below. At the beginning of the course or unit, students fill out only the before practice column. The idea is that students will self-assess just as they are starting to learn about these skills. They should write either a plus sign if they already feel like an expert in the category, a check mark if they feel like they're okay with this skill but could improve, and a minus sign if they view the skill as a personal weakness. I encourage them to be honest and explain that it doesn't matter what anyone else puts on their paper or if someone else has way more plus signs than they do. It's all about where we are as individuals and improving ourselves from where we each are. Then I have students put a star next to a few skills on which they would like to focus. As a side note, I found that by giving students a choice of which skills to focus on, they are much more likely to make the effort and actually work toward improvement. Okay, that's all they do with this page for now. They will return to the after practice column and the follow-up questions at the end of the course or unit. Next, we do the marker Mosey, which I will link in the description below. For this activity, students get a fine tip marker and mosey around the room to different papers that have the various skills on them. It's a brainstorming session of sorts where they can come up with their own examples of how they could improve each skill, but I also encourage them to look up ideas if they'd like as well. After giving them time to mosey, I assign each one of the papers to a small group and tell them to find and summarize trends in the responses. In other words, if there are repeats, they should be consolidated. Then each small group reports out to the class. As groups report out, I tell students to focus on the skills they would like to personally work on. What suggestions make sense in their lives? What can they do to improve? I explain that if they learn by writing, they are welcome to write down ideas and/or take a picture of the marker Mosey paper with suggestions for that skill on it. After the marker Mosey is also a great time to have students do an exit ticket that they can refer to later, such as this one, which is included in the digital exit ticket resource. I'll link this resource in the description below if you're interested in learning more about it. Okay, now comes the real work. Now students have to consciously practice the skills in which they would like to improve. I have found that two things help increase improvement. One is the reminder of which skills they'd like to focus on. It's one thing to do this growth assessment and marker Mosey and then forget about it. It's another to be reminded of which skills they're working on time and time again throughout. The second thing that increases improvement is tracking of the skills after specific activities and/or experiences. I use the Employability Skills Tracker resource for this, which is also linked below. It includes rubrics, charts, and inspirational quotes related to each of the 15 skills. And by having students monitor their progress after class activities and other experiences, they are more likely to improve them. Let me show you how it works. For example, if a student chose to work on ability to work well with others, they might assess how well they used or didn't use this skill while working on a group activity in class. They will include the date and perhaps even a little description of the activity here. Then they will use the rubric to rate how well they use the skill during the group activity. If it makes sense to do so, the group can also give a rating. As another example, if a student chose to work on punctuality and good attendance, they might assess how often they were tardy or absent for a week of school or work. They will include the date and again a description such as work if they were just focusing on the skill for work. Then they will use the rubric to rate how often they were late and/or absent for that week. The group rating could be completed and perhaps even signed by a supervisor at work or simply left blank. Oh, and because I use this with students during distance learning, I've included a digital version. If you'd like to use this version, there's a link in the teacher directions file to make a copy of the Google version, and I've included a PowerPoint version. Students can type dates and resize the shapes to fill in the rating. Lastly, students return to the Employability Skills Growth Assessment to fill out the after practice column and the follow-up questions. Here they can rate improvement on their skills using evidence from their trackers. I tell kids that it's okay if they don't see a lot of improvement on all the skills, but if they feel they have improved some, especially those on which they chose to focus, that's a huge win. Developing these skills is a lifelong process, and they will need to continue to work on them as they encounter different situations at school, work, and in their personal lives. So there you go. That's how I foster employability skills with my students. I hope you and your students find these resources helpful. And if you're interested in learning more tips and seeing resources in action, check out my other videos here on YouTube and/or follow along on Instagram or Facebook if you're into that kind of thing. As always, thanks for watching.